We're probably going to open with Totes Dotes.
Don't say Totes Dotes.
I always do. Whenever my brain always says it when I think about Totally Dota.
You tend
Totally Dota would have been such a better podcast name than Dota Today.
Totally Dota is
Totally Dota.
It's August 18th, 2016.
This is Idle Thumbs 276. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Shaun Vanaman.
And I'm Jake Rodkin. Hey, Shaun.
Hey, guys, I'm here, and it hasn't been very recent that I have been here. You were...
Welcome to it.
Welcome.
It's nice to be back on the podcast.
Good to have
for
you.
a moment.
I'm real glad Nick's not on this episode.
Me too. I would go into a full rage. I can't
Holy
look
shit.
at him without just flames.
No,
On the side
of your face.
Where else would
Where
they
else would
be?
flames be?
For God's sake.
I was actually really hoping that Nick would be on this podcast because I know you spent this weekend in what seemed to be a state of heightened, disastrously heightened bliss at the International.
It was so good.
Watching men in sealed rooms
Cyber athletes.
play Defense of the Ancients 2, legally not called that in any way.
This is called Dota.
Dota 2.
Oh, it was so good.
Wow, that was a revealing
I
sigh.
sat down at Key Arena and I looked at the screen on Wednesday morning or Thursday morning when I got in, and I went, I am so happy to be here. This is the happiest place on earth. And then
How many days did you spend in that room?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
Friday I went to Val for half a day to just say hi to people, and then I came back. But then Saturday when the finals were over at 9 o'clock at night, I was physically tired because it's actually really tiring to watch Dota, which is weird. But I was
because you're tensing up, or
it's just so much to hold in your head all the time. You get really just exhausted. You get kind of tired.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just.
You were on the edge of your seat
test or something,
Right.
if you
Yeah,
took
yeah.
a SAT, you were weirdly tired at the end of it.
Like
It's
being
like
a
that.
long meeting or something.
Yeah. I was just like, it's
But the
over.
best meeting.
I was so disappointed when it was over.
Yeah.
I was still just like, oh.
I'm imagining you
Sunday,
as
I was I wish there was more TI.
as a kid with a Meepo hat and you got one of those huge lollipops you get at Disneyland,
Hunter.
but
Tide Hunter face.
yeah, but it's like you're dragging it on the ground as someone is sort of pulling you by your shirt out of there crying because Disneyland is closed.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
super
There's
tired,
the
super
big-
happy, super sad.
A big broom behind me, pushing a bunch
Gabe.
of Dota.
Gabe Newell sweeping
Newell
you out of there.
Sweeping a bunch of Dota confetti into a corner. It was awesome.
Yeah,
It was by far the best of the ones I've ever been to. I've been to 3 of them. Four of them.
The stills that I saw on Twitter from TI6 this year looked, from a production value standpoint, more than anything I've seen. You've talked on previous podcasts about going to pop rock concerts.
Yeah.
How does because the International doesn't look like a sporting event. It doesn't look like boxing. What is it,
In terms of the feel of it and the sort of quality value that was put into the production, the closest thing I can compare it to is the Rose Bowl, probably. They did this amazing thing, though. So there's Key Arena, you have to have a pass to get in. But then outside, it's right near the Space Needle, so there's lots of public space. And they had 2 giant high-definition screens in giant picnic areas where you could get picnic blankets and watch
so you could sort of squat at TI. They had
Anyone
a public
could go.
a public grounds.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, that's
Crazy.
really cool.
And there was probably for the finals, Amir and I popped out during game 2 because we just needed to get some vitamin D, and there was probably 1,000 people in the park.
Wow.
All laying out, picnicking, watching.
How many
Dota.
people ticketed to a
About 15,000.
You said 15K.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that.
It's pretty amazing because the production starts. They start broadcasting on Twitch at 10, and then it goes to whenever the games end. And some days the games ended at 5, and other days the games ended on the last day at 9. But it was just wall to wall broadcast with no commercial breaks because they aren't going to cut to a sponsor.
Right.
And the quality
Because the sponsor is hats.
is hats, all the hats, skins, bro.
Yep.
Lots of
They
skins.
They didn't air any of this on ESPN3 or anything, did they?
I don't
with
know.
Evo?
I don't know. It's every once in a
didn't
while
hear
one of those
about
things
that,
happens, but
yeah.
you normally see on Twitter what's this?
That's
You
right.
get
Yeah.
the
That's right.
pocket
I didn't
tweet from
see
the
that.
guy who's
From-
get your sports off my sports.
Joke dad. Yeah.
But the quality of the actual on-screen talent has just gone through the roof. They have sort of a panel of 4 that's like back at the desk. They've really modeled. It was like people were like, "This is better than what NBC has done with the Olympics." Apparently, the Olympics have been garbage, but in terms of that stuff. But the panel of 4 on the desk. They have four people they throw to who are sort of analyzing the draft. Then they have the 2 guys who are broadcasting the match, like the color and the play-by-play.
Yeah, those guys do a great job.
So good, yeah. They had a guy when they'd come back from a match who would like illustrate the 3 things that were like really like important about that match. And it's this guy, his name's Kevin something, but Purge is what he goes by. And it was just stunning analysis. At one point, he stopped giving his analysis. He's like, and that's all, thanks. And like, back to you. And the stadium was really quiet. And then there was just sort of like spotted clapping about how good it was. It was like, wow, oh my God.
His analysis got slow clapped?
His analysis, yeah, was just like, oh, Purge is a genius. It was just stupid stuff. Like, so when you go to lane with this type of regen, like, let me show you how, like, what they chose to bring to lane at the beginning, like health regeneration, completely determined the first 10 minutes of the game for the entire board. And you're like, how does your brain work like that? It was really impressive. But the matches were all good. There was a Cinderella story of, like, these guys who built a team of guys who all got kicked in some way or another, like 3 days before the filing deadline, and then like played their way through like the garbage.
Oh, like guys who got dropped off teams and stuff?
Yeah, just sort of like a orphans team that beat last year's champion, beat the best team from Asia, eHome, just destroyed everyone in these really dynamic, really exciting matches. And
when did they get eliminated?
The finals.
Oh man, so they came in second, or
yeah, they came in second. Yeah, they lost to a Chinese team called the Wings Gaming.
Do people call that team TWG, or do they have? Or
they call them Wings.
Okay,
they call them Wings. They were a bunch of young kids. I think the ages between like 17 and 23 from China. And I'm looking up the Wings Gaming like boot camp rules. This is they speak Mandarin, so this is translated. So apologies for the bad translation. But Wings Gaming team rules: train 6 days every week. Smoking wine or bringing girls to their base is prohibited.
I heard that as smoking wine.
Smoking, wine or bringing girls to their base is prohibited. Had to sleep at 11:30 p.m. No quarrels are allowed during practice. Nice. You aren't allowed to play other games. Keep your group activity at any tournament, which means they had to do like dinner and lunch always together. All grooming must be done before 11 a.m. Be fully prepared to train at 11 a.m. So good.
Jesus.
Yeah. And there was a big...
Become millionaires.
Yeah. Well, like 4 months ago, somebody was like, you can't live like this, because that's when those rules came out. Like, these guys are going to burn out of TI. And then they just destroyed everyone.
I mean, that sounds like just how professional StarCraft teams in Korea just work.
Yeah.
That just sounds like what they're like.
You board in that boarding house as a professional e-athlete.
Yeah.
There was...
You have a very regimented life.
Yeah, they were... Well, the thing is...
But people do burn out. I mean,
contrasted.
after, a couple of years anyway.
It was the thing that was fun about this international is that it feels like all of the Asian teams, not just the Chinese teams, finally feel like they can just be themselves and like they have a place at the tournament. Like when they were interviewing the champions at the end, they have a translator on stage, so it's like question in English, Mandarin to English, and when the guy of the captain of the Wings Gaming would respond in Mandarin, like a third of the stadium would like laugh or clap, like could understand what he was saying. So it was like it was crazy. Truly an international.
Was that not
tournament.
The case in earlier ones? Was it way more focused on Western teams earlier?
It wasn't so much focused on Western teams. I don't think the Asian fan base made the journey. And then furthermore, it seems sort of like there were some cultural barriers that still needed to be broken down. Like the tournament maybe didn't make teams that had come from Asia and Southeast Asia like feel comfortable or something. They always kind of seemed really like nervous and bottled up on stage when they'd be interviewed, but that's like all gone, and it's really cool. That's been
a new challenge in esports, I think, for a long time.
I feel like games. In Dota, it's going to be those days are behind us. Like the amount of just sort of silliness and personality you got from every team, whether it was like TNC from the Philippines or MVP from Korea or the Wings from or eHome, like both Chinese teams.
It'd be interesting to hear if it would ever come out, what has happened to make that change. I mean, other than just Dota 2 has been around for a few years. The
Right.
people are comfortable in the community. Like, has Valve, or specifically the organizers of TI, actually done things, gone out of their way to make that feel comfortable, or to make it more accessible to international audiences to attend? Or is it just the gravitational force of the international has pulled enough people into it now?
I think it's all those things.
Yeah.
Also, this was the first year where they had the 4 majors, the same way you'd have in tennis or golf.
Oh, right. That's right. There's actual lead-up tournaments this year, and not just
Yeah, and you had to have a team sort of built by a certain time to compete in them. So I feel like a lot of these teams they were traveling a lot because the majors were in Frankfurt, Manila, Shanghai, and then TI in Seattle. So those are 4 very different cities. Teams were traveling all around the world and coming up against each other all the time. And they had the Shanghai tournament was really poorly run, so they went through a shittily run tournament. And then I think TI, everyone was sort of in agreement that it was just perfectly run. Nobody was burned out on too much Dota, which had happened in the past. The accommodations were really nice. All the team suites were good. They really thinned the sort of VIP experience, so teams could actually just rest in between matches without being sort of beset by fans. And then moved a lot of that fan stuff down to more structured times. It just seemed like a really, really well-run tournament. It made me really stoked for it. I no longer feel like Dota's gonna be great one day. It actually just feels like, oh, this is just a thing now. It feels like this is run by adults for adults. There's no they don't say stupid meme shit, they're not pandering to the Twitch chat audience, the people on camera.
You mean the commentators don't?
Yeah, they don't they rarely swear. It feels really inclusive. Their language is thoughtful. There's sort of coded language of esports that is really kind of disgusting and I don't know, divisive, but
it's basically
none of that stuff feels anywhere within 1,000 miles of the tournament. It's not in the tournament's orbit, which is great. It's fucking awesome.
The language of the last 20 years of multiplayer gaming, you mean?
Yes. There's which is
but the
good.
esports version of it has this aggressive veneer, this weird
has a
competitive tinged veneer to it that makes it cutting in a way that is
I
don't know, it's I know what you mean. It's very gross feeling and weird.
I mean, there's a line between shit talking. There's a line between shit talking and then sort of the darkest parts of Reddit and 4chan that sort of seep into it.
By beating you with this computer character, I am also sexually dominating you in an uncomfortable way for no reason. That
feels,
voice chat.
I haven't. Even you saying that feels so.
Yeah, no.
Distant. And
I listened to a bunch of. We just had the International on in the office on a TV, and I was actually able to follow some of what was happening just by listening to it, which has never happened before. We talked about that on this show during TI4, I think, about just my wish that I could even follow the ebb and flow of a Dota match by watching the International, and it happened this year, which is really cool.
It's funny, by the way, last week having our office manager had the Olympics on all day on her computer monitor, but the office television just had the International on all day long.
Oh yeah, so you could watch the Olympics on Aaron's computer with the commentary from the International and be very baffled.
That's true.
Also, the weightlifter. Did you guys see this? It's a woman weightlifter who grabs the barbell, brings it to her chin, squats, gets it up over her head, and then drops it, and then did this cute little heart shit, and then people have been doing Zarya OCs on from Overwatch. I've been playing a lot of Overwatch. But the International was awesome. I'm sad that it's over, which is weird. Normally I'm so burned out by Dota at the end of it, but it was just so well run and I miss it. It's over now.
It'll be back.
Congratulations to the Wings Gaming.
From all of us at Idle Thumbs, congratulations, the Wings Gaming.
It was amazing. They had just thousands of people in the stands who also had really well-made signs. They had clearly handed them out to the China contingent.
It's like a political convention.
Yeah, that said "Hover your wings," which is just that's their chant. Hover your wings.
Wait, really? People chant that?
No, but you know what I mean. It's hover your wings, and they do a little W, a little
sure,
a little whatever.
Oh man, the little wings hands.
Yeah, the little
crossed
hands.
thumbs, wings hand.
Yeah,
as they call it.
Hover your wings. They're good. Yeah.
And then 3 guys had Bernie signs up in the deep back.
That's cool.
I'll stay.
I've been to 2 internationals, weirdly, but...
You went to the Benaroya ones.
Yes, I was before it moved to Kiri.
Those were... people would ask, like, oh, did you ever go to the Benaroya TIs? It's like, oh, yeah, I was at Benaroya. What was it like? Like, yeah, those are bygone era.
It's a symphony hall in Seattle.
Yeah.
It was a very classy affair. Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so good.
You want to take a break?
Sure, let's take a break.
Video games.
This episode is brought to you by the fine folks at Warby Parker. Jake, do you know what Warby Parker is?
I believe they make glasses and sunglasses.
They do. But guess what?
What?
They're not super duper expensive.
Oh, that's good.
That's their competitive advantage is having stylish frames that come at a low price of $95, including lenses. Crazy.
That's pretty sweet.
I had some blue ones, and I got them in the mail with 4 other pairs and selected them from the group of 5, which is how you order Warby Parker's, dear reader. You go to warbyparker.com/thumbs, and there you can get a free home try-on kit. It's actually really cool, especially for sunglasses. You don't have to get them prescription, but prescription sunglasses seem like a giant luxury. There's nothing better if you wear glasses than nice prescription sunglasses that just look like good sunglasses. And they have lots of selections there for you to try on at warbyparker.com.
/thumbs.
Also, they're a buy one, give one organization. So if you slap some stylish shades on your face, there's going to be a little kid running around with matching stylish shades, I assume. I assume it's the exact model that they give.
Just smaller?
Yeah. Yeah, I assume that it's like... the way 1-to-1, they don't just help someone in need, they make them look fly as fuck. warbyparker.com/thumbs.
Video games.
You guys still sponsored by all NatureBox, Jacob?
We are. In fact, this very episode is brought to you by NatureBox. NatureBox, for those of you who don't know, is a snack delivery service, a snack subscription service. They just send a box full of really, really delicious snacks to you once a month.
It's a snack attack.
It's a snack attack. We've talked up the what are those? A Big Island pineapple?
Gotta love a Big Island pineapple.
They're real good. They've also got all sorts of crunchy and chewy or fruity snacks.
Sweets, savory, something in between, something for the child, something for the man.
It seems like every time we pick out snacks for NatureBox, there's new stuff, which is really nice.
It's like they're getting ideas from snacks from another dimension. They have so many snacks.
That's probably true. A very well-apportioned and tasteful and delicious dimension.
A natural dimension, hence the nature.
So if you're interested in this magical life that we all enjoy, where snacks arrive at your door once a month, go...
Like the beginning of Dumbo.
It's like the beginning of Dumbo.
Except the
snacks,
stork is dropping snacks, not little baby animals.
Yeah, and they're coming from the internet, and that you eat them.
And it's usually a man in brown shorts, not a stork. And they don't float down with little parachutes.
There might be a stork. If you want the NatureBox stork animated by the Walt Disney Company to bring you snacks once a month, go to naturebox.com/thumbs, and if you use that URL, the first box is free. So you can try it out with very low risk and very high deliciousness, and possibly a cartoon stork.
Video games.
Although if you end up on the cartoon stork path, your mom might be put in a cage and cry on you and sing songs from the 1930s. So
there's some fucked up stuff in Dumbo. I watched it there like about a month ago.
Dumbo's got some messed up stuff. You think it's all good with that happy train?
No, the train's fucked up.
It's not good. It's not good.
Don't like it. I don't know if it's worth sharing how, despite how much I've heard about the game, how little I feel like I was prepared to know what I would have been purchasing at $60.
You're going to have to unpack that sentence for me.
Like,
this is No Man's Sky you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this a little bit in the office yesterday, but I felt like 3 or 4 times this week I went, so wait, it's not multiplayer. It's not multiplayer, right? It's online, but it's not multiplayer.
It's definitely not multiplayer, yes. No, it's absolutely not.
Right, but I felt like I had myself asking that to various people a few times.
Because you I just maybe thought you saw evidence to the contrary, or...
Yeah, and I think there was just sort of I've played a lot of DayZ. Games where you wander around, where most of what you do is really sedate and being alone. Mm-hmm. But then the sort of like moments are seeing another person. Right. And I had heard this game, I thought that Shaun Murray had mentioned something about other people in the game.
That was the funny thing is I never thought this game was multiplayer. I was always completely certain it was not. And then what's weird is that like 2 days ago, someone pointed out this Colbert clip from like a year ago.
Yeah,
where
I remember that.
Shaun Murray was on Colbert and he explicitly said, because Colbert, they arrived at this through a weird question, which is Colbert saying, "Oh, can you see yourself?" or something. I don't know what that's. I don't know. What,
maybe he was asking, like, is it a third-person game or something?
Oh, maybe that's what he meant.
In that context,
and
maybe?
Then, that could have been it. And then Shaun Murray was like, no, not unless someone else runs into you and describes your face to you. But the chances of that are unlikely because the universe is so big and the chances you'll run into other. But the fact that the chances can be low means that the game.
Yeah, it's the classic. It's the classic Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, like it's meaningless to say the chances are low unless it's actually possible. Otherwise, you would just say, no, that just can't happen in our game, and that's the end of the answer.
Yeah.
Right. If the chances of anything in a video game are low, that means that they can happen, which
means
means that it will happen
code
on video.
Yeah, it means
Right.
like somebody wrote code to make it possible.
It also means it'll happen more than you think it will, because as a developer, like things that feel like they're very rare never end up being that rare once they're being played by a bajillion people and like for a ton of hours. I mean, that was Shaun Murray's tweets on the day the game came out where he was just like, I mean, we talked about that last week a little bit of just, wow, players of No Man's Sky have already identified more living species than there are on Earth. People have already run into each other on Twitch streams but haven't seen each other and like blah, blah, blah. Like,
been on the same planet.
His surprise that people had covered more of the galaxy than he thought more quickly is just like, well, that's what happens to the fixed. If your game is procedurally generated, the possibility gamut that people will fill is bigger than you think it's going to be right off the bat.
Right.
It's hard. I mean, I do think, like, not to be over simplistic, but if you can name a planet something and then it's that name in someone else's game, it's kind of a long walk for your average person who's buying a video game at the store to tell them that you can do that, but you're never going to see the person who named it because it's impossible, because it's not multiplayer.
I think that's
a hard walk.
I think that summary right there is probably actually getting very close to the heart of why people have been confused about how No Man's Sky works.
Yes.
You're
affecting the metadata.
It's hard to say. We are all in isolated, glassed off copies of the same universe, but when anyone discovers anything in their universe, everyone else's universes get updated. That's not the way that a brain understands space and time. Yeah.
I want to be clear that I think it's totally acceptable to make a game.
I do too.
True.
I think that's
cool.
It working that way is cool, and maybe honestly for me preferable.
Right.
Like I would rather play a game that is actually not just flatly, but in the case of a game like this where so much of it is just like you're just kind of puttering around on your own speed and like doing stuff and exploring things, and like I don't know, I'll probably just walk away for a bit and go get like a cup of tea or whatever. Like I would rather probably have it work this way. But yeah, Jake, you're totally right that it's not necessarily intuitively sensible if you don't already know how this stuff kind of works in other games that are similar. It's not intuitive that's how it would work. I don't know. It's a weird. The developers of this game are in a weird position, right? Because part of the reason this game rose to such a position of like hype and anticipation so quickly is precisely because people saw in it something unique and new. And but like, of course, the other thing that comes with things being unique is that there aren't a lot of comparison points that lead you to know how you're going to react to them in reality because they're fairly unique, and there aren't lots of examples of it.
People's instinct is then to fill the holes in with things that they like or want.
Right, or even if they haven't done that, it still doesn't necessarily mean the thing that it ends up being is the thing you're going to like.
Yeah.
Like, if something is uncommon and like can't be
like a glowing hat, for instance.
Like if it's an uncommon
mythical
hat. If a game is of rare, uncommon, horrifying type, or whatever the fuck the Halloween shit is in TF2.
If it's a gold immortal.
If a gold immortal video game, pseudo multiplayer, meta universe
has an announcement trailer at E3 that you weren't expecting. You don't know what it is for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, in a world, I mean, your game doesn't come out in a vacuum. You know, like No Man's Sky comes out in a world where things like Starbound exist.
Space is a vacuum.
That's a really great point, Chris.
Yep.
I actually retract my statement. Physically, I have been astrophysically owned.
Your game does not come out in a vacuum because it comes out on Earth, which has an
If
atmosphere.
your game comes out in space, does anyone hear you scream about its
About it not having multiplayer.
71? Yeah. I guess the answer is no.
I'm
That was
sorry, what
Sean
were you
Murray's
actually- what
first
were you gonna
mistake
say?
was
I'm
not
sorry.
releasing this game in space, so he couldn't hear the outcry of outrage.
Yeah, the problem is he released it on Earth where there's a bunch of complainers.
with the internet.
Sorry, not to dismiss people.
No. I just think you have. I feel like I don't know. It's like you have to kind of tell people what your game is in a way that's like not the facts.
Which is hard.
You have to tell
by
the
the way.
story of your
Like,
game
think
and why
about-
it's better than
Yeah.
why it's best the way it is the way they made it. You actually do have to do that. It's like
Yeah. Also, though, that's hard.
yeah, of course. I'm
Especially-
not saying that's fucking easy.
No, I know. I just mean
But
like,
it's- yeah.
for instance, working on Firewatch, that was a game that is like of much more limited scope than No Man's Sky, and it may not seem like
How
it would be
dare you.
hard to describe that game to people.
No, Giant
But
Bomb
it
had a
is what
field.
is-
Giant
but it
Bomb
was
had a field
really
day for
hard.
years saying what is Firewatch,
Yeah.
and even then, like as a joke about how indescribable even the simple game
Yeah,
that we were
which
making
isn't
was.
to say that it's like a crazy, unimaginable game. It's not. It's just
Yeah.
that it's like it is actually hard to nail down exactly. Like, how do you describe this in a way that is going to not let people end up being inadvertently like self-deceiving about
Yeah.
what it is? And with a game like No Man's Sky, I wouldn't even be surprised at all if at the point at which Sean Murray was on Colbert, he was literally working on a different game than the one that was shipped, because that game is so, that game was a classic situation of starting with like a small, basically Skunkworks team at Hello Games, like making some crazy prototype, and then eventually it ballooned into this like huge Sony second party like tentpole, basically that is a huge part of their strategy for 2016 one, it's evidently. And by the time that thing shipped, I'm almost certain they were making a different game than they thought they were 4 years ago or whenever it was they started on it. And so, of course, like the way they've described it is going to change. And and again, I'm not trying to like disagree that you have to find that way to just describe your game. You totally do. This is just a situation where it feels like the factors involved made it inevitable.
Yes.
That both the people making the game and the people playing the game were going to be on different pages, at least in some quantity on each side. And like, it's hard. Games are weird like that.
Thinking about multiplayer in No Man's Sky, like just even going back to when they first sort of announced it's a big ass galaxy that you can explore.
Classic ass galaxy.
It's a classic ass galaxy. The sort of multiplayer that I always envisioned in my mind as the ideal cool multiplayer would be something like Journey, where you don't necessarily.
So I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Right. So I've been thinking about this over the course of this conversation, but like and it's made me question my own thoughts, because I realized that I'd been thinking about it in the sort of dreamscape I'm a fan version. Like in Journey, you're wandering through this epic quest, and then you'll sort of go into a tunnel in a mountain and pop out into a big huge valley, and there's another guy there, like because the game has brought another multiplayer player into your game, and you sort of passively experience the world with this guy, and then
he's like another traveler.
Yeah, another
on the
traveler,
same
and then
sort
you
of-
eventually sort of break paths because you have different stories, and that person just falls away, and they're not in your story anymore.
Yeah.
And picturing that in No Man's Sky is like, it's an amazing mental image, or the idea of being able to like bring your buddy in and co-op.
Right.
But the thing that I realized, the verb set that you as a player have in No Man's Sky is very much like any of the Terraria / Starbound. Like you're mining resources, you're crafting, you're surviving, you're building and flying ships around and all these things. Imagining the world, the practical realities of an open multiplayer No Man's Sky seems like it would change the experience way more than I think players imagine in their
Because people would start intentionally congregating, and
there'd be griefing, there'd be all sorts of
Yeah.
shit. You could
Yeah.
be like the world where you're having this solemn space experience, and then a Journey style player shows up in your world and then basically starts fucking up your stuff would be so just like devastating.
That's why I'm glad the game actually works the way it does. And like I haven't played this game as much as I'm going to end up playing it. Certainly, I suspect.
The thing-
but I have, I've really liked what I've played it so far.
It made me think the more that I think about it as this shitty armchair designer guy, if there was a multiplayer model that they adopted for No Man's Sky, I think Dark Souls would be the thing that would be really rad. If you're in your own universes, and then it would feel like the way people leave notes in the Souls games that crossover feels very much like the naming planets and species, but then you can sign on to be available to be teleported to someone to help them. Or sign on for the ability to sort of warp into conflict spaces with players. So you as a player could choose how you want to engage in multiplayer the way you do in Souls games. Feels like that would...
Even just the note part would be... Yeah. I mean, that'd be a much easier... That would be a much lower
they've already...
bar.
The way that they have naming of things working feels very similar to the way that notes in Souls games works.
Yeah.
But I think that style of multi could also potentially allow them to start scraping away at some of the other... longings people seem to be having when playing this, which is like wishing for a higher difficulty contrast or a higher like scarcity to bounty contrast on planets. Like right now it feels like there's no way that you're ever going to just like land on the completely devoid of life water planet from Interstellar and just be fucked, because they don't... It seems very rare that Hello Games wants you to land on a planet that actually just is so quote-unquote unbalanced that it destroys your playthrough. But if you had that Dark Souls style multiplayer where you could like put out a beacon to call people in, then I'm sure there would be players in the world who just enjoyed being a No Man's Sky support class, basically, where you're like, I will just answer support beacons, and I will just
Coast Guard.
I will just be basically No Man's Sky Coast Guard. Like there's interesting stacked things that come into it when you think about like slightly off-axis multiplayer. And I just, over the course of this podcast, I accidentally got myself excited about
that was actually some of my favorite stuff about DayZ, was like that those are like role-played support classes. Obviously, the fiction of that game justifies all the terrible things that people do to each other outside of that. But like,
you're when you play DayZ, you expect you're going to be stripped down to your underpants for sure.
Yeah, but you also can like use like a custom hashtag on Twitter to call in like a blood bank service that will come give you like a transfusion in DayZ.
Yeah,
and which is pretty cool.
Saying all this stuff, I can't ever claim to know or think what Hello Games actually wants to make, but like that the sort of the voids left in No Man's Sky are such a tempting possibility space for one's brain.
I mean, on a totally different track, just as a thought experiment, discarding the multiplayer stuff entirely, this conversation has made me think about how No Man's Sky would have been received by individual players in a different era. Like, let's say a game like this had come out. Well, because games like this kind of did come out. If you look at games like Elite, this game comes from an old lineage of games.
It feels like it has a little bit of Privateer in it, too.
Yeah, totally. And if imagine this game coming out in a world that, let's say it's not even in the past, but just in a different world where social media doesn't have the sort of ubiquity that it has now for people online on the internet, because a lot of what has created misconceptions around this game and sort of fed assumptions and hype is, people working themselves up because of, like the way the hype cycle works in an instantaneous feedback communication medium. If this was the kind of game that you guys, I don't know if you guys had experience like this. I certainly did growing up as a PC gamer, where you'd get some game that like your friend would clue you into, and you didn't have any way to just instantly learn everything about it. So you would sort of poke away at it, and you're like, whoa, what is this? Like,
there were no opinion camps.
Yeah.
You didn't get a game and know that like some people like this game and some people are really
not
mad
only
about
that,
this
but
game.
there also weren't just like, you didn't just already know all the information before you even loaded it up. Like the first time I loaded up No Man's Sky and I started playing, I actually did it on a stream. So I kind of, I put myself even farther away from this mentality. Although I will say the people who were on my stream were not doing the thing that sometimes happens on streams where they were just like walking you through every single step of everything, which can also be fun for different reasons. But even playing it on the stream made me imagine an alternate reality in which I was playing it, and I literally didn't know anything, which was kind of true. Like, I didn't know how much of this game, especially in the early game, is based on like mining stuff. I can imagine a version of myself playing this game where I didn't already know everything about it, and I'm like, oh, I guess I have to mine these things. Like, whoa, there's this whole other area here. Oh, shit, I can get off the planet? Like, oh, fuck. Because a lot of games start with a crash of some kind, and don't necessarily end up with you flying back into space. Like the crashed spaceship is just the framing device for now you're stranded on a planet. Like
Pikmin, for instance.
Yeah,
exactly. You do eventually escape.
That's true, but it's
true. And then No Man's Sky shows up. Nintendo did it first.
And you are actually, if you could see yourself in No Man's Sky, you'd be Olimar. That's what he should have said to Colbert.
When another person describes you as a small, bulbous,
with a little
mustachioed
guy who can't really see, with a little dangle coming out of his head.
But just imagine the version of this game where you are like, just as the player realizing, oh my god, I can get into space. Oh my god, I can go into light speed. Like, there's like space stations. Like, this is crazy.
Right.
Instead
of strong nostalgia for those years.
Yeah, this is a dumb example because it's an adventure game and it's one of the first ones that I really got into. It is Monkey Island 2, which I've talked about a ton on this podcast. But that game was introduced to me by a friend in elementary school who said, you have to play this game. It's like you are playing a cartoon. And I was like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And then I installed a pirated copy of Monkey 2 because I copied all of his floppy disks. And that game, your character just walks on screen in the middle of a pirate town. And then when you try to walk off of the screen you walked in on, you get beat up and all of your stuff is stolen. So I was just like, I guess in this game I can't leave this town. So I spent like hours wandering around this 5-screen town, meeting everyone and being really happy about it. And then when I realized you could walk off the screen and there was like 30 times more game than I had experienced, my mind was absolutely blown because I had no context for what an adventure game was.
Right.
Really,
yeah.
I mean, I'd played some King's Quest games, but those games felt completely different to this because they pretend to be simulations, whereas this was just like a pirate joke simulator. Anyway, that's like, and then I was sad that there was no multiplayer once I walked off that screen.
Right. So, man, related to this kind of, this is a weird snaking route, but like, so both of you guys I know are familiar with John Dickerson, who is
I love John Dickerson.
Yeah, he's the host of CBS's political show Face the Nation, and he does a podcast called Whistle Stop, which is about historical American presidential campaign stories, and it's really, really good. And Jake and I last week went to a live taping of the Whistle Stop podcast here in San Francisco. Shaun, sadly, you're out of town, could not join us.
I would have been there.
But and I actually mentioned it in the Idle Thumbs newsletter, the one that went out. By the way, if you're not a subscriber to the Idle Thumbs newsletter, you can subscribe at the foot of any page at idlethumbs.net. And I just had a little section on there where I said some interesting stuff that I've come across recently, and that was one of them. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because in addition to the Whistle Stop podcast and the Political Gabfest, which is he's also on, John Dickerson has a very small podcast called Face the Nation Diary. It's like a 5 to 10 minute podcast that's just like his political thoughts going through his head that he just keeps up on related to his hosting the show Face the Nation. And I heard John Dickerson on a Slate podcast called The Gist, hosted by this guy Mike Pesca, and he was talking about his process.
This is a snaking path.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're 3 pods deep.
I'm sorry.
4th if you count this one.
I can edit this out if it doesn't end up going anywhere.
No,
we're here.
I'm with you, Chris.
And Dickerson was talking about his process, and Pesca was like, "Why do you do these? Like, you're on the Political Gabfest, you do the Whistle Stop podcast, you also host this show, and you have the this." Like, why do you need the diary show? Why, like, you have all these other places? And Dickerson was like, well, I write pieces and I'm on these podcasts, but like sometimes what happens is I have to write the piece to find out what I think about something. And then I can go on this like little Face the Nation diary and now I can explain what I think. And sometimes it goes the other way around. Sometimes he goes on the diary and sort of like muses about something and then realizes, okay, here's the angle, and then writes a story or then brings it up on the Political Gabfest. But the idea of saying he has to like write something in order to figure out what he thinks was just a very fascinating. He just threw off that phrase. It wasn't like a manifesto or anything, but it's been stuck in my mind for like a week now. And I've been thinking about that notion, especially with respect to the way games are sort of instantaneously received on social media. We definitely, I mean, some people obviously now just aren't on social media, and that's great. But I mean, for those of us who are, I'm definitely on Twitter all the time. There definitely is like an ambient pressure that I think you're not even conscious of most of the time to instantly have an opinion like there's no like expectation that anyone will take any time to formulate an opinion, right? So even a game like No Man's Sky, which is this weird, amorphous, huge, sprawling thing where it's like, oh, you kind of like the whole point of this game is that you basically marinate in it and like have this long-term solitaire experience, but like instantly within a day of it coming out, it's like, is this game a huge disappointment? Is it actually like the savior of games? Is it this? Is it that?
Chris, there's a huge game coming out. It's actually a galaxy that maybe rivals the known universe for size. Also, nobody is entirely sure what you do in it or what the game contains. What do you think about it?
Yeah, right. And I don't mean to like, by saying that, it sounds kind of shitty because it sounds like I'm saying, oh, people shouldn't just like form opinions about stuff. And obviously that's not true. I form quick opinions all the time. But I just hearing that thing, like having to figure out what you think, usually we interpret the notion of what we think as being the knee jerk. And then maybe there's like some deeper sort of what is like the considered opinion that goes beyond that, or what is the deeper truth that goes beyond that. But the idea of having to like stop and go through a process, even to figure out what your own initial opinion is, was something that I just really struck me. And it's I feel like just like the basic structure of a sort of 24/7 media society just don't want that process to exist. Like that right. Context does not want that process to exist. And it's just worth thinking about that, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like totally conflates reaction with having an opinion.
Right, exactly.
Like having a reaction is the same as having an opinion.
Right,
where I think
exactly.
the Dickerson process very clearly delineates between those two things.
Yes,
like
exactly.
We're very reactive as a society. That's why there's like outrage culture.
Right.
It's all just like I get struck and then I instantly strike back because with whatever like counter emotion or counterfactual or whatever.
Right. And the challenging thing is, in a lot of cases, like there are really significant political structures in place that make it like important that outrage is sometimes expressed like
our entire government apparatus is built to not be reactive. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
that's also true. Yeah.
Like,
so that's operating at the exact opposite level of momentum as
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's probably pretty good, right?
It's
probably good that like,
good.
You know,
it can also be very bad.
Sure. I mean, you know, like there are nuances to it, but it's good that the most powerful body in the history of the earth can't just get mad and react to something. It has to actually go through a process. You know,
that I agree with you in theory, except that a lot of the things that end up being reactive are the bad. Like, you know, there are certain like unilateral like political actions that can happen that are reactive, and you know, there's like a lot of military.
Well, I think that's when we're at our worst.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever. We're getting way off a field here, but just I don't know. The No Man's Sky thing has been a case where it feels like this game has been launched into an environment where there's almost no version of the game that probably would have not resulted in this happening, which isn't to say that I am like endorsing the game or condemning the game in either. Like I don't even know how I feel about it at this point.
Same.
I do think I like it. But totally aside from my own opinion about it, just watching the way the internet has like churned through it, it just feels like, well, I guess this is just what happens now. This is just how a game like this is inevitably received, kind of no matter the content of it.
It'll be interesting to see what this game looks like in a year.
Yeah, totally. Because they're patching this thing like mad.
And in terms of our opinions about it, even if it doesn't grow to be,
where does it land? Like in audiences' opinions, where does it land as far as how Hello Games deals with? Like how live a product is it, I guess, etc. Yeah. No Man's Sky 2.
You guys want to do some reader mail here?
I love reader mail.
Everyone
I didn't answer your question, though.
I don't care. I will take that as a
No Man's Sky is a good name.
No Man's Sky is a good name.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
Good name.
Good name.
Strong name.
Oh, I never got to say, oh man, guys, it's No Man's Sky this week, which I was gonna, and I did.
Well, that sentence was instantly untrue.
No, that's true.
All right. Desiree Campbell writes, on the subject of games acknowledging your failure, in my youth I came across a rule variant for pen and paper RPGs where, quote, canonically, your character would only perform an action if it was successful. In case any listeners aren't well versed in pen and paper RPGs, the gameplay is that the player announces his character's intent to perform an action and then rolls a die to determine how the character performed that action. Anyway, with this specific house rule, your character would only take action if successful. For example, Captain Kirk wants to wrestle the gun from the hand of his Klingon captor, so the player rolls a die as usual. If he rolls well, Kirk lunges at the Klingon and gains the upper hand. If rolling poorly, the action described would be something like Kirk eyes the weapon in the guard's hand but knows his strength is no match for the Klingons, and the player needs to try something else. The rule variant was an attempt to emulate the feeling of action films and pulp serials where the heroes never just get shot by goons or fall off a cliff. The Game Master would have more control of how the action plays out, and players would feel safer trying new actions and forced to be more inventive. P.S. I didn't think of it then, but thinking about it now, this rule variant reminds me more of adventure games. Minimize game-ending failure by allowing for consequence-free efforts. Keep casting those pods, Desiree from Toronto, Canada.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
like that.
That's I've not come across that.
I was DMing quite a lot last year.
What were you DMing?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Really?
Yeah. I did a bunch with Ollie and some other people and Adam. And it was funny about how much having made adventure games at Telltale and then also working on Firewatch really like prepared me for that job in exactly
for
the way
like
that she's
what if
speaking.
support of weird outcomes.
Yeah, but because I always just wanted them to have fun and for conflicts to be interesting, I found that there was a way to adopt that same ideal or that same like ethic, I guess, or whatever, of wanting things to go a certain way and being able to create this sort of situation she's describing while also letting them roll ones, like lunge for the gun and then stumble and hit their face and yada yada yada. And I found that like the improvisational aspect of that ended up making the possibility space of their encounters like really big. It meant that I couldn't come to any campaign with too much structure. I had to leave myself some like trap doors where it's like, okay, we're in this cave, but 3 failures in a row by these people, like 3 ones, means that one of them falls in a well that I just discovered in my brain. You know what I mean? So now the space of the world is bigger, and like, what does it mean now one's in a well, and how does the fight go differently or whatever they're in?
Sure.
And that part of that entire process was like the most fun, which is like, how can I just keep making them fail forward as opposed to like die?
As opposed to just like, try again.
Nobody ever died in the 6 campaigns that we ran. But they were severely inconvenienced by all manner of creature. Yeah, it was really fun. Man, side note.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who it is, but I have a friend who has been running a D&D, you guys know who this is, has run a D&D campaign for over a decade and has built their own custom rule set that is all based on performance. So your roles, you actually have to like do a thing at the table to like, and that is then judged by the DM.
Like tell a joke, play a song.
Yeah. Draw a picture, whatever, to like conjure your thing. And it's very cool because all of the rule set's been honed with this group for so long that the people who play,
so it plays to their abilities.
Yeah, exactly right. That's really exciting. I think that's cool.
That's cool. All right, so Josh writes, "Hey there, I've been playing RimWorld as a result of Chris's streams and chat on the show. The other night I was playing and got a message a woman was fleeing some pirates. I could help and fight or ignore it. I hovered over the ignore button when I saw she was a medieval lord, which means she can do neither smart nor dumb labor. I fucking hate those people in this game.
What is that?
What do you mean those people?
In this
Lords.
game, people who can't do dumb labor like literally won't like haul things from point A to point B, which is so annoying.
Like
when you're,
because they're like,
run-
I'm too highbred to pick
And
up
then they're
this
like,
garbage.
the people who would do that are taking my jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking assholes.
Fucking lords.
Got some immigrant lords coming in here taking up all our labor. You don't want to carry that? You just said you wouldn't carry that to over there. Yeah, but now he's going to do it, and I couldn't.
Now my choice not to is meaningless because someone else is already doing it.
This is tyranny. Go on.
When they all pop into my map, I get So I hovered on the ignore button, saw she's a medieval lord. That's when I saw the last line. She was the wife of one of my original colonists. I guess I have to save her. When they all pop into my map, I get multiple relationship alerts. She is my colonist wife, but she's also running from her own son, my colonist's stepson, the leader of the pirates. The fight goes perfectly.
Oh, this is the Game of Thrones variant of the game.
But now for 2 seasons, I have a distraught mother. She wanders around in dazes, refusing to do anything. Which isn't very different from when she's sane, refusing to do almost anything anyway. I saved her out of love, but I wonder if my colonist had been trying to get away from his abusive medieval lord of a wife and evil stepson for years. The game can be weird. Josh.
RimWorld seems like it is basically, you could write whole seasons of Game of Thrones by just running RimWorld sims, it seems like.
Maybe not specifically. You could write seasons of something. I mean, they're not all about lords and shit.
No.
But
I have a question.
yeah.
We'll keep it very short because you've talked about this a lot on the cast, I presume. I have not listened to the cast nor played this game. Is it easier to get into than something like Crusader Kings? But that was a Crusader Kings story.
I would say it is, yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they're different. They're pretty different. Crusader Kings is like ticks along in a way that RimWorld doesn't.
RimWorld is more like Dwarf Fortress, but with art and a UI.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. RimWorld is, exactly. RimWorld is like an approachable, graphically like complete Dwarf Fortress.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it has all the crazy, it generates
come to it
familial
blind?
relationships and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I did.
Without any sort of like literacy of these type of games.
I mean, I haven't played Dwarf Fortress, so I essentially can't. I mean, I play a lot of like builder games and economic management games, and that helps a little bit, but like not.
My understanding of Dwarf Fortress is like the average person's understanding of Eve. So like.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't know. I mean, all I knew about Dwarf Fortress is the stories people tell about it, but I had no firsthand experience. Yeah, I mean, there are a couple like weird. There are a lot of fiddly UI things that I definitely learned thanks to people on my stream. But a lot of those are things that you would just sort of do badly for a while and then eventually notice and be like, oh, I can tweak this thing, as opposed to things that are going to stop you from like fundamentally playing the game.
Right.
It's just like a lot of these games, you'll probably fail your first colony because you just literally have no idea what you're even building towards. But that's just how that's how all these games are.
You should go back, Shaun, and anyone else who has not listened to last week's RimWorld story about the character who made a chair that turned out to be a piece of art depicting Nick Brecken barfing. Very good.
It's
okay.
It is a thing that those experiences in games like this are just irreplaceable.
Yeah, a character was tasked to make a chair, and then the game declared that the chair was a piece of art, and all art has descriptions of what it is. Oh.
Was the description...
Nick Brecken barfing.
Who concocted those words?
Nick Brecken was the name of a previous character in the game who had died.
No, he was still alive.
Oh, okay. Nick Brecken was just... Chris named an NPC Nick Brecken.
Okay.
And then the game... rolled a paragraph describing the art of this chair. So there's like
the game just like assembles like sentences.
Right. Okay. That's intimidating. Okay.
It just does, that just happened randomly.
I mean, just mean that as a design person.
Yeah, it's totally.
Right. Yeah,
it's terrifying the number of things.
It wasn't like a person typed. Another player typed that in, and I got.
Yeah.
No, the game just decided that this piece of chair was a work of art and had like a fresco in it of Nick barfing. Yeah. I don't understand.
By the way,
what video games are.
On my most recent RimWorld stream, a thing that ended up happening was I captured a pirate from a raiding party, and she was like 89% resistance to recruiting to my colony. So it's like this is not happening. I mean, I've spent ages trying to recruit people at that level, and it just doesn't. It either takes forever or just eventually you give up or they escape or whatever. And chat ended up getting there's this new feature on Twitch called cheers, which are these little like bits. I mean, I think they basically cost like a cent or less per one of them. They're like these dirt cheap little like unit of currency that you can buy in bulk and then like use to essentially tip the Twitch channel in real time. If it's like, oh shit, like the streamer did an amazing thing, like I appreciate that. Like here's some bits, here's some.
So it's people can actually now throw money at the screen like memes.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a little animated like
memes.
thing that happens in the chat, a little icon. And 2 members of chat on the last stream, they got in basically a bidding war to convince me to amputate this prisoner's leg and replace it with a peg leg. And then they got in a bidding war about whether it should be the right leg or the left leg. And eventually this happened, but before I could stop, like in these games, you can force people's priorities and tell them like, okay, you need to prioritize this one task right now. But generally speaking, you just like say a task has to be done, and then a person who is like generally tasked with that thing will, like, one of the people who has that general category of task will just on their own time decide to do it as their priorities dictate, right?
You're like the EA producer versus the EA project manager.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand.
Yeah, and before I could stop it, my like unexpert, before I even noticed what was happening, my shittier doctor was like, "Oh, I'll do it," and just went over and started like immediately operating on this person.
You got to micromanage these people. My
Yeah,
God.
well, yeah, it was fucking disgusting because it was just like a minute of just like gross squishing and like sawing sounds, and then they just fucked up and gave up, and the person like almost bled to death, and I had to go back and like fucking rescue it. This person was under the general anesthetic for like 2 days, eventually came out of it with a peg leg and an intense hatred of that doctor. It was fucked up. And it was because literally people were paying me to do it. Like, people were like paying me to cross like a horrible virtual ethical boundary.
And you did it.
And I totally
did
did.
it.
It was a very weird experience that I had in this game. Now the person's got a functional peg leg. But they're slower now, which means if they try to break out of jail, we'll be able to catch them more easily. So, you know, my guys, my peeps.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, that's RimWorld for you. Okay, let's see what else do we have here. David Bass.
That's RimWorld for you.
Yeah, RimWorld, the video game. David Bass writes, "I'm sure many people have already sent this to you guys, but I need to make certain you're aware that Nintendo is currently running a poll for what they should name their community Nintendog." And then
Remember Nintendogs?
I do.
Had that beagle.
links to a Twitter poll. As you might imagine, the name Waluigi is currently in the lead,
Great.
with Doggy McDogface in a tight second.
Nah.
Yet
Give me
somehow
Waluigi.
the biased gaming media is currently campaigning to stop both of these excellent names from becoming a thing.
Seems like a good use of their time.
I mean, this poll is over now, and Waluigi won. So
What was the alternative?
Waluigi, Isabel, Doggy McDogface, and King.
I think Waluigi is clearly the strong name.
Yeah, for sure.
Why are people mad about this?
I don't know.
I don't really know.
Everyone needs to go into a little room and record a 5-minute podcast with John Dickerson and figure out why the hell they had the reaction that they did.
Formulate their opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, if Doggy McDogface is on the list, you have to make sure that you vote for not that.
Because that's just we've just been floating.
that's secondhand memes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's just
I guess memes are by definition secondhand.
garbage tier meme.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Get your memes out of here and name that dog Waluigi.
So here's a last thing. This is really great. So, Shaun, you wouldn't be aware of this, but on last week's podcast, we read an amazing email from someone who went through had an experience that was like a sort of big family upheaval in their adolescence, and they got through it in large part with the help of Wakeboarding Unleashed featuring Shaun Murray demo disc.
Yeah, the demo from a cover disc.
The demo from a cover disc. They played this level basically for like just sort of with an intense focus that diverted their kind of depression and frustration in their family life into this like diamond polished.
They were basically like trying to beat their own best
wakeboarding.
times and scores by writing them down on a notepad because it wouldn't save in the demo.
Yeah.
And then they were like, I never
Yeah.
went and bought the real game because I don't think that I could bring myself
Exactly
to
as the creators of that demo disc intended.
Yeah.
Well, funny you should mention the creators of that demo disc because we got a comment on the YouTube version of last week's episode from the Free Range Games YouTube account saying, Chris Schultz, who started Shaba, and Free Range Games, and a handful of Shaba guys who worked on wakeboarding, who work here at Free Range Games, listened to this after a colleague found your video. We were all touched and happy to hear how wakeboarding helped that reader through their difficult time. And they now want to scrounge up a copy of that game, sign it, and send it to that reader.
That's thrilling.
That rules.
Which is really sort of just touching and wonderful. So that was just a sort of an amazing thing that happened.
in the reader mail section of Idle Thumbs.
The glory of the internet. See?
Yeah.
See, it's not all
just-
it's not all No
just-
Man's Sky. It's
No,
not all
hot takes.
It's not all Jurassic
also
Park
very touching
melodica.
takes.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's touching takes. Chris, that sounds weird.
That does sound very weird. I'm sorry. Anyway, that was a cool thing. I was really pleased about that. So I guess we'll see if we can figure out logistically how to do that. But
The U.S. mail.
well, certainly the U.S. mail will be involved. Yeah. Anyway,
That sounds like a weird beginning of a conspiracy.
This goes all the way to the top of
This
the
is the
U.S.
US
Postal
Postal
Service.
well, I mean,
Postmaster General.
What is it? The Crying of Lot 49.
Yeah.
that's true.
Idle Book Club. Listen to it on Idle Thumbs Network.
True. Oh, yeah. Actually, by the time you hear this, we may have already released the latest episode of the Idle Book Club, which is about the short story collection Runaway by Alice Munro. So go ahead and listen to that if you're interested. It's really good. Alice Munro is an amazing author. And next month we're reading What We Talk About When We Talk About Love by Raymond Carver, which should be fun. So
Not to be confused with his brother, Foam Carver.
Foam Carver, true. Nor Foamy Carruthers.
Definitely not to be confused with
No.
Foamy Carruthers.
So yeah, thanks for listening to Idle Thumbs. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider telling a friend or leaving us a rating or review on iTunes. Those are the things that are particularly helpful in spreading the word about this podcast and helping us reach more people. We're also on Twitter at twitter.com/idlethumbs, on Facebook at facebook.com/idlethumbs, and you can send us reader mail at questions@idlethumbs.net. We have a YouTube channel at youtube.com/idlevideos, and all of our podcasts go up in annotated form to that channel, as well as all of the Twitch streams we do at twitch.tv/idlethumbs. I'm continuing to stream RimWorld, and I also streamed my first hour with No Man's Sky, which was fun. I may stream more of that game. I don't know. We'll see. See how my time shakes out. But yes, thank you for listening. All that information can be found at idlethumbs.net, along with the rest of our shows. Bye.
You could go there.
Bye. Bye.
You'd buy some billboards for Idle Thumbs, help grow the audience. Download all the podcasts, give them to friends on discs.
Thumb drives.